Well, hey, Braxton, super excited to have you on the call today. It's kind of been a long time coming. We've been talking about this for a while, but I'm looking forward to our call.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, Joe.
For sure, for sure. Well, hey, like we talked about, you guys have an awesome story at Braxley Bands where you went from a school project to a seven-figure business. So I'd love for you to tell us more about how you guys got started, specifically how you came up with the idea and what that looked like initially. Like, how did you guys get things kicked off?
Yeah, so it was a little program at my university, Texas Tech, called Red Raider Startup. And I had, I guess, really since I was a child, tried to come up with like little simple inventions, and my parents kind of like confirmed with me at a young age that I had some type of like quirky like engineering talent of sorts. And so I kind of identified as somebody who could like invent things. And there was this thing called Red Raider Startup my sophomore year of college. I was a marketing major, and I decided that sounds great. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own thing. And didn't know what I was getting into, but it turned out to be the best thing I ever got involved with in my entire life, because basically everybody pitched an idea to the group. There was about 50 people, and there was going to eventually be about 10 different startups over the course of the weekend. You go from just a complete vague idea of a concept to a Shark Tank style investor pitch with a whole business plan built out. We went and did field research, and did basically, I guess you call it market research, and talking to potential customers and stuff like that. And so my idea at the time was just cool Apple Watch bands, because I had just gotten an Apple Watch for my birthday, and the band was kind of ugly, and I was like loved expressing myself with my fashion choices and style, and so
Sure.
I didn't like the band, and it was uncomfortable. And then I was looking around at what other options were out there, and there was nothing I liked. So the original concept was cool Apple Watch bands, something stylish, unique, or comfortable. And yeah, that's kind of where I guess it all started.
Cool.
And we still do that, so it hasn't changed much, really.
That's cool. I love how simple that is. A lot of times I think the simplest ideas are the best, and once you start complicating them. But yeah, anyway, cool Apple Watch bands, very focused, very simple. I like that. What I'd love to know more about, and one thing that fascinates me, is kind of the stage between idea and getting your first sale. And I think people overcomplicate that, where sometimes they think like, I've got to have this amazing website and this social media presence. But anyway, I think really a lot of times it comes down to kind of focusing on producing something and getting sales versus having stuff that's perfect and polished. So I don't know, what would you say about kind of that next step, as far as you went from that weekend to actually creating it to actually selling it? Like, what was that like?
It was actually about a year.
Oh, wow.
The weekend, and then actually going to market with something, because I went and studied abroad, and then I was still just thinking of it as a class project until I got back. And I when I studied abroad, I was wearing my prototype, which was actually made out of a sock. So
oh, wow.
on like a cool patterned, like ribbed crew sock. And what I liked about it was how comfortable it was, because it was stretchy and it just kind of felt like a hug on your wrist.
Sure.
And so when I got back, I sort of dove more and more into personal development and the ideas of entrepreneurship and startup culture, and getting more involved at the Innovation Hub at Texas Tech. I realized I was on to something, and that it was time to take it seriously. So I teamed up with my best friend, Grant Andrews, and we sort of began researching different materials we could use to make a stretchy Apple Watch band. Because at the time there was literally nothing. So we were going to be the first ones to market with a stretchy watch band. And we found really solid material to work with, and then began still working on that material. So now it's a little bit thicker, a lot softer. It doesn't stretch out as much, and it's 100% recycled polyester. So now it's also made from stuff like water bottles and used plastics that we can give a new
Sure.
life to. So the material is constantly being innovated on, and so really where we're trying to take the brand is, maybe I'm going on a tangent here, but whatever. So it's the idea is like we are making elastic innovations off of this
Okay.
really elastic that is very versatile, used for all kinds of things, and it's literally made using trash.
Sure. No, that's awesome. That's really cool. But yeah, and that's awesome that you guys are doing that. But kind of getting back to that for me. So first of all, it's really cool to know it took a year. I like to quote, people say it takes 10 years to look like an overnight success. Anyway, things take time. So, but yeah, so you're sitting on the concept, you have the prototype, you guys started researching materials, but yeah, what did that next step look like as far as going from prototype and research to biting the bullet, taking the plunge, deciding to sell it, and getting your first sales? I guess kind of that first dollar or those first sales. I love kind of talking about what that process looks like.
Yeah. So I began, I guess, learning, you have to learn so many different aspects of it, but really it first started with, okay, I was cutting up socks. I was trying to do like batches, see how it would look for me to make these by hand. And then, it takes a while to wear it around and see if the fabric is actually good. So I was buying different brands of socks, and like there were certain ones that looked cool, but they just completely stretched out and fell apart after a few uses. So when I finally landed on a material that worked, and it wasn't made out of socks, it was just basically inch-wide polyester webbing. I began hand stitching them on like a random needle and thread that I found, and then selling those to my friends around campus for $20 over Venmo, and just getting feedback from them. So at the time, we didn't even really have a website. I was just like showing everybody what I was making. Like loved how I had such a supportive community there.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I think our first 10 sales were just over Venmo, just to friends, and then opened up like the cheapest possible Wix website. It was like $9 a month. We built out a little store on Wix, and then just kind of grew it very organically in Lubbock, and got into like very early on. I mean, we were making these things literally by hand. We got an order from TC Ellie's that they wanted 100 of them, and we're like, I don't know how to make them. It's going to take us. I mean, we don't even have the material or anything. We had to order the little metal hardware pieces online. Those took a few weeks.
Sure.
But we knew right away that the demand was definitely there, and so we bought a little sewing machine. Actually, the first one we borrowed from my Nana until that one gave out. Then we bought our own. But Grant, this is the most hilarious thing about the early on story. Grant was a master at the sewing machine because he had taken a sewing class in high school as a blow-off class to, probably
That's
just
hilarious.
think it'd be all girls and him or something like that. And so he was at the sewing machine, and so we just had a really solid little assembly line going where I was cutting it, he was stitching it, I was packaging it, and then I think we got it down to where we were able to make and package a single band in like a minute. Each one took about a minute, and so
Wow.
we just were staying up all night working on the website, doing the orders. And early on it was just kind of funny because it almost was like stressful getting orders, because instead of feeling like excited about it, it was like, oh, this is so much work.
Wow.
I have a test tomorrow. Like I can't do this. But those were the best times as well. So yeah, I think starting out that first dollar is really special because it makes it all feel real,
Sure.
And for so long before a startup can have the I guess privilege of generating revenue, it's all patience. It's like this blind belief in yourself that whatever you're doing, you're not going crazy. You're something real,
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. No, that's really cool. That's awesome. I didn't realize you guys were making them by hand while taking tests. That's really neat. um,
It's not that way anymore, but I do.
yeah.
Hear me misses it because you see it through rose-colored lenses, as they say.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why part of that's my favorite part of the story, because you always see the end result, and everybody wants to be the next Apple, and they forget that they started in a garage, and you guys started making by hand. You weren't necessarily making money hand over fist, but you were kind of proving the concept, and you were proving that people wanted it, and making sure there's product market fit and stuff like that. But I'd love to know, what did that next step look like? So you guys you're making it by hand. You're in school. What did the kind of the next level of scale look like for you guys? And I'm also curious to know how long you stayed on Wix. That's interesting to me that you started there. I'm curious to know how long you were on Wix.
We were on Wix probably for the first year until we realized it was absolutely not scalable on the back end. I mean, I was having to. It was a nightmare. I was having to hand address every mailing slip, every label.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have a way to automatically print a label. So I just had to copy down somebody's entire name and address and put that. It took forever. I mean, our first Black Friday, all that was in Wix, and it was exhausting. But
Sure.
then we worked with an actual student team at Tech to make our first Shopify website. That was really cool. And now we have a world-class site made by FuelMade, which there's some of the best in the biz, and
Sure.
I'm really proud of the way the website has sort of evolved over the years.
Yeah, no, yeah, that makes sense. And then the website looks great for sure. But yeah, no, I'd love to know kind of, again, kind of looking at the different steps you guys took in the path you were on. So kind of the grind it out stage, you're making it by hand. What was kind of that next step? I would guess you kind of start manufacturing somewhere, but what did that next step look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we first actually were outsourcing to an alterations lady at the Lubbock Mall.
Okay.
How much for you to just stitch this for us? And so our first, I think 400 were from a couple of ladies that were just working in alterations seamstress people. And actually that was just supplemental. Grant was still doing it. Then we went to a place in Austin called Stitch, Texas, and they were assembling them all for us. And that's how it probably was the first year and a half. And then we just kept scaling, and ultimately they couldn't keep up with our demands, and so as it goes, kind of have to go overseas eventually. So
Sure.
We've been working with the same family-owned factory over there for the last 2.5 years.
Cool.
And it's been great.
Very cool. That's awesome. That makes sense. Yeah. So you kind of, I guess, find new ways to manufacture to keep up with your demand. So it sounds like you kind of went from the people in the little shopping mall to Austin and then overseas as the demand went up. But what did that look like as far as kind of the demand increasing? I mean, I would guess, it kind of got more and more exciting or more and more stressful, depending on how you look at it. But I'd love to know kind of more about like when did you realize things were really taking off, and what did your marketing look like at that point? And again, kind of what did it look like where it went from kind of your friends, or it went from local and it went to, hey, people around all the country or all around the world are buying this? What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's kind of felt the same the entire time. Ever since the beginning, we've been like, this is crazy. We made 60. It was all just at that stage, sort of beer money, or I guess whatever, and cool, $60 we didn't have earlier. This is amazing. And didn't really think about the intricacies of cash flows as we scale. It's all stuff we learned as we go, but it's a lot more complicated now because our revenues have, obviously gone up month after month, almost since we started.
Sure.
So does the expenses and the costs associated with running an online store. I mean, early on, Facebook ads were huge for us, and Instagram, and we were absolutely crushing it. I think around the sort of like we were like some of the last few brands maybe to like be able to just like throw cash at Instagram, and it totally worked. Like even when we had no clue how to make quality content.
Sure.
So that was huge for us, was Instagram ads starting out, and then getting some pretty solid PR early on, and then really leveraging word of mouth. So like we always included like extra inserts in the package to either encourage people to share it with friends or to like post it on their story. Like one of the best growth tactics we did early on was tell people, post this on your story, but like post a picture of your band on your story. We'll give you $10 off your next order. So it makes them follow us, and then it makes like it's basically a word of mouth endorsement from like a real person to their friends who see their stories, and then it almost guarantees a second order because they have a $10 coupon, which is like a huge discount. So yeah, that was really solid, and we still do that. Well, we don't do the $10 coupon, but now that we have such a following, the incentive is just to be shared with the rest of the band. So it really like establishes like a sense of community, because we're like, always shouting people out. If they post us, we'll repost it, be like,
sure,
looks great, like glad to have you in the band. And so
that's cool.
Yeah.
So okay, so let me just double check on that. So initially, you would send it out and say, post it, and you get $10 off. But then now, I guess you don't have to do that. So you just say, kind of post it, join the band, and then you guys give shout outs to people and highlight people. And so it's kind of more of an organic thing now.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Awesome. Okay. So it sounds like as far as that growth stage goes, specifically on the marketing side, you guys relied heavily on Facebook and Instagram ads. You also had some PR. You have your organic social, or, the viral component, whatever you want to call it, where you guys are asking people to tag you and giving the coupon. That's a really smart idea. That's really cool. But yeah. Okay. So we've covered kind of the initial phase, how you got started, what that looked like, sewing it yourself, making it yourself, all the way to you're using marketing, you're using ads, you're spending money on ads to scale and grow. I'd be curious to know now, like you said, you're at kind of a higher stage, you're growing month over month, year over year. What would you say are the biggest challenges you guys face now with your current business? So what are your biggest headaches now that you didn't have, 3, 4, 5 years ago?
Yeah, I would say it's like making sure every customer has an incredible experience. And there's so many like brand touch points that we've tried to master, but like just keeping up with supply chain on things. Like for instance, like we're out of our custom poly mailers right now, and those were always really. It said like your day's about to get a lot better. So they pull that out of the mail, and it's like, oh, I'm excited. This is dope. And those like the lead times on stuff have just been absolutely delayed, like on everything. I mean,
Sure.
like we're trying to come out with new bands all the time, but like factory isn't able to produce stuff as they used to be able to, and the air freight is insane, and just trying to keep the energy constantly evolving and constantly going has been pretty challenging, and constantly trying, being able to like try new things and keep that fire going with the brand, where people constantly want to know what we're putting next. And so it's like, I think that's kind of the most challenging thing is once you have everything established, like being able to like really keep up with all those customer touch points, like even like realizing like, on one of our welcome series flows, we feature a bunch of bands, and like several of those bands that we featured we don't actually have in the store anymore. And so it's like remembering like, oh yeah, okay, so like when we come out with a new band, or when one goes out of stock, we have to update all the automated emails that feature that band. Like,
sure.
so many things to like, if you want to have it perfectly polished, like there's so many things to notice. Like even our SMS on Postscript, we didn't realize that people were replying to the messages.
Oh, wow.
And so we see, I like one time I'm like, oh, what is responses? And I look at responses and there's like 100 different messages from people being like, asking questions or, whatever it may be. And so anyway, now we got that nailed down, but it's just, there's so many different little things to keep up with. And I feel like a lot of my job is like people always ask, like, what is your typical, like, I'm like, I don't know how to even answer that, because it just depends on what needs to be done. Like some days I don't have to do much at all, and other days I feel like I need 2 days in one to get everything done.
Sure.
So yeah, I would say, other than that, managing cash flows properly and making sure that we scale at the level we need to scale at, have the market size we deserve to have, because I know that we make the most comfortable, the most versatile, sustainable Apple Watch bands in the business. How do we get that to every single person that is buying an Apple Watch, while also still being able to bring money to the bottom line and run a profitable business? Because I think it's so sexy for startups to be like, oh yeah, we did $3 million in revenue.
Sure.
But then if their bottom line is zero, like, are you really winning, And
yeah.
I think we've done a solid job in that sense, because we have grown tremendously year after year, and every year we also our bottom line. So we've always been profitable. We've never had to put money into the business. I mean, literally, even starting out, it was like a $20 investment to buy some socks.
Sure.
And that was the only money that was ever put into it. So, scaling that way has been challenging, but actually we hired my younger brother, Zach, who is also a tech grad, as CFO, and he's done a tremendous job just with all that. So I can focus on the creative things and the R&D, and Grant can focus on the operations and the ads. And now Zach's like making sure that basically we're doing all these things profitably. And
cool.
We have the inventory coming in that needs to come in, because that's also challenging, is being able to sort of think 6 months out what we need.
Yeah. And for sure, and inventory is getting more and more challenging with COVID delays and all that kind of stuff. So it makes sense that would be a big challenge. I'm curious, what about kind of marketing wise right now? What's working the best for you guys? I'm hearing a lot of people talk about TikTok. And there's a lot of stuff going on. There's kind of some changes that are happening. So curious to know kind of what channels are working the best for you guys, and what are you personally excited about?
Yeah, great question. I like that. Well, TikTok is going very well for us.
Okay.
The Spark ads. So we've had a few TikToks go viral on their own, but TikTok's doing really well. And I think ultimately the success on TikTok probably comes down to brand fit for the platform. But ours seem to fit really well. So
for sure,
TikTok is definitely our best channel right now. Doing like sort of, I think, Instagram still works well, but it's not quite the same. So, we still put a lot of effort into our Instagram, but TikTok is where it's at in terms of like effort to ROI or whatever. Like,
sure.
TikTok is the best. And then email, tried and true. Like, our email list is everything to us. I mean, we drive about 35% of our revenue off of email.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be around forever. SMS is great too. So I mean, I think between email and SMS, we're looking at about half of our revenue coming from that.
Okay.
So yeah, we're working with FuelMade on those, and we send out 2 campaigns a week. We send out 1 SMS a week, 2 email campaigns, and then our flows are really solid. We're constantly updating them, A/B testing things, and if anybody's on our email list, you'll know that like we send out some of the most, like, I would just say, like sort of quirky, comedic, yet also just kind of relevant emails possible. So I mean,
sure.
we give people like tips on like how to use their app. It's like what is going to really make people want to open up an email from a watch band brand? It's like, let's like educate people on like what's coming out with the new Apple Watch, like the hacks and like what to wear, and then just like completely irreverent, silly things like, you know,
Sure.
it's the best band to wear to a wedding, you know, like it's blackout because it's the tuxedo and whatever, you know. And so we just kind of come up with like random things to hit people with. But email is definitely it when done right. It's no doubt it's the best channel.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And it's great that you guys can get close to 50% from that. I mean, that's awesome since you own that and you're not renting it. So it's really cool. Okay, I'm curious actually, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I kind of forgot about it. But one of the things that I love about your brand is I love about I don't know how consistent you are. In some ways, how irreverent you are. But I mean, you know, you guys know what Braxley Bands is, and you talk to your audience in a certain way. And I'd love to know just a little bit more about how did you guys come up with that, and how do you guys stay consistent, and what is your thought process when it comes to, you know, your brand and your voice and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it comes down to just being true to what you like. So like I was just studying and sort of like seeing what I appreciated from what other brands were doing, you know, with their voice, with their style, and whatever resonated with me was like what I wanted to do. Like I didn't want to sort of just try and please everybody because that ends up being boring. So, like if we lose a few people with our style of like humor, so what? Because I think that, you know, you just gotta do something that like has a lot of personality. There's too many brands that are just. I mean, I was shopping on South Congress yesterday, and they have all these new direct-to-consumer brick and mortars there. You know, you got everything from Everlane to Frame to what is it, Buck Mason, all these like cool, you know, apparel brands. And I swear they're all selling something. They're selling the most basic. No offense, guys. It's just basic clothes. There's no personality in any of these things, and it's like it's great to have one store like that, but to walk into multiple stores where it's just the same stuff. I think that's why our brand resonates with people, is because it's outwardly quirky, and we're just trying to like have personality. Sure, we risk like being like too goofy for some people. Maybe it's not like, I don't know, you know, whatever you would say, I guess. Like, DTC brand would do. But I mean, at the same time, there is a lot of people that go for the really far out humor approach, and it works super well for them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're just gonna keep doing it, and you know, whatever's funny to me is what I want to do.
That's cool. No, what I love about that is, I mean, two things. One, I love that you said, you know, be true to you and your story, you know, versus trying to do things to you know, make other people happy. I think that's great. I mean, it gives you a personality. It helps you to stand out. But I love what you said about, you know, making sure you stand out, making sure you do something different. I always tell people when it comes to branding, you know, if you don't stand for something, you're not going to stand for anything. And if you're not making at least some people, you know, unhappy or, you know, not happy with what you do, then you're really not branding hard enough. You know, you're going to lose somebody where if you're too quirky, too funny, too true to yourself, and obviously there's a line, but anyway, if you don't do that, then, and like you said, if you try to make everyone happy, you don't really get anyone excited. So I like those 2 points. Stay true to yourself. And then, you know, make sure that you're, you know, you're kind of being who you are and making sure you stand out and not kind of doing the Me Too type of branding.
Right.
Cool. Well, hey, this has been super helpful so far. I feel like people are going to have a lot to think about and learn from and talk about. And like I said before, I love your story. It's such a cool story to me, going from a school project to a 7-figure store and you know, supporting yourself and your team and building a profitable business. It's not easy running a profitable business. So you guys have done a great job with that. But yeah, I don't have any more questions. I mean, if you have anything else, you know, you're excited about and want to talk about and want to share, feel free to do that. I would love to know, looking forward, you know, what's the next year look like, or what does the future look like? Like, what is your vision for the future of Braxley Bands?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been 4.5 years and we've only sold elastic Apple Watch bands. Everybody's like, what are y'all gonna do next? And so we've been trying to figure that out. But ultimately, like, the vision for the company is Braxley Elastic Innovations. So we're still gonna keep selling our Apple Watch bands, but we're gonna constantly keep developing products that use the same recycled elastic and make whatever device or whatever gadget it is more functional. And so we're developing a really cool product right now that we're calling basically the utility belt, and it also has a bag attachment. So it's going to be the world's first modular fanny pack, and so people can wear it as a sport belt. So it's going to be really great for golfers or skaters to have a stretch belt. Has a really clean magnetic buckle to it. So it's just really cool. And all of our patterns will be featured on them. And then you'll be able to slide a hip pack or shoulder bag through that belt. And then you can wear it around your shoulder. You can wear it multiple ways. And this elastic belt not only can be worn on your waist, it can be used for all kinds of other things too. So we're going to develop new attachments for it, show people what else it's useful for. I mean, just a bunch of random stuff. It can be a camera strap. It can be a yoga mat holder. It can be used as, anything. So this is something that we plan to have early 2022, and we're going to keep working on new stuff that sort of changes the game for people. And I try to design my products with, like, I call it like the three-dimensional design. So this is really what I'd love to leave people with, because ultimately, like, what I want to cultivate myself is to be the best designer I can be. That's, to me, it's like design is art with purpose. And so I think about it in three different dimensions. So you got functionality, that comes first. So it's like function first, style second. So make it the most useful, the most practical thing. So with our bands, they are the best bands to work out in. They're machine washable and they are comfortable. So function's knocked out. Style second. So make it look dope. So we have 3 different prints. We're keeping up with like all the latest trends. We got like seasonal ones, and we want people to like wear these for style.
Right.
And
yeah,
is what I call like impact. And so we want to inspire people. So whether that's with our overall brand story and like doing something like this and showing people what can be done in startups, like that's one element to it. But really, it's like, okay, let's encourage people to use their Apple Watch for what it's meant to be. So like ultimately, like show people how to live a healthier lifestyle. And then on the new bands now, like we have this one here where we printed feel peace on the inside. So it's like inner peace. So people are wearing these on them like almost like tattoos. So we have this one that says be good. So it's like, what is the impact at scale of somebody wearing something on their wrist that simply just says be good? So they look at that every time they check their watch. Oh yeah, take a sec to remember, like, be good today. Like, be a good person. And that's, to me, like, this is where great design lies, is because it has that third dimension that is hard to really capture. And this is like the most rewarding one to me. This is like what I want to expand more and more, is how to inspire and how to like really have an impact on the world.
That's awesome. I think I've seen you share that on Facebook before, but I'm glad you mentioned it again. I love kind of those 3 points. Function. If you don't nail that, then the product's not really that useful. Doesn't matter if it looks good if it doesn't work well. Style obviously matters and gets people excited and it's something they want. But I like that last one, impact. Kind of making sure you work that in. That's a really cool, to me, kind of design philosophy. And really cool that you guys are doing that. So I'm glad we could leave people with that. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close up?
No, thanks. Yeah, just check out our TikTok or Instagram at Braxley Bands everywhere. We're constantly doing giveaways and trying to keep the energy really going there. We're about to launch our Halloween costume contest.
Okay.
A new Apple Watch. So stay tuned.
Sounds good. Yeah, definitely people should check out Braxley Bands, TikTok, Instagram. Go to braxleybands.com. Hey, Braxton, thank you for joining me. I enjoyed it and look forward to sharing this video.
Always, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.